Good evening. Welcome to the Bazelon Center's 2024 awards reception. Please join me in welcoming to the stage tonight's MC, co-anchor of the PBS NewsHour and Peabody Award-winning journalist, Amna Nawaz.
Hello, everyone. Hi, can everyone hear me okay in the room? Great. Thank you so much for being here this evening for what is truly a remarkable gathering here. This is a room filled with disability rights advocates from across the country. Thank you for being here. So in this one room, we have some of the most impactful advocates at the local, state, and the federal level who carry forward Bazelon's mission to advocate on behalf of adults and children with mental health and psychiatric disabilities. On a personal note, I just want to say that it really means a lot to me to be back with you on this occasion. I was absolutely honored to MC back in 2020 for this event, when we also, of course, celebrated the 30th anniversary of the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act. So now, as we look forward to the 35th anniversary of the ADA in 2025, here's what we know. We know that this work must continue. We know that we have to increase our efforts on behalf of the community, a community that needs advocacy and solidarity now more than ever. And I also want to add, on another personal note, one of the reasons that I'm so involved with the center and with disability rights organizations is due to two people you probably know very well. One is my mentor, someone that I'm privileged to call a friend, the one and only Judy Woodruff, and also her husband, the one and only Al Hunt. Absolutely, yay for both of them. Judy and Al have always led by example. They have demonstrated to me the power of allyship, of storytelling, and of course of using the platforms that we have to do as much good as we can, as often as we can. In addition, of course, as all of you are, I continue to be inspired by the leadership of the Bazelon family. They show up, of course, not only to this event, but on a daily basis to move forward the spirit and the advocacy of the organization's namesake, Judge David Bazelon. So, before we turn to the awards program, I do want to take a moment and thank all of the amazing supporters and the advocates who've made tonight possible. They're all on screens behind me, so please join me in giving all of them a round of applause, our allies and friends of the center. And now, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce someone we all know, someone we all admire. That is Holly O'Donnell, CEO of the Bazelon Center. Holly, of course, not only leads with heart, she leads with experience, with conviction as a national leader who is respected in the nonprofit space and beyond. Please join me in giving Holly O'Donnell a warm welcome.
Thank you, Amna, for the introduction and for hosting the awards this year. I'll begin with a visual description. I'm a white woman with long brown hair. I'm wearing a black dress. I grew up in DC, so I am almost always in a black dress. Welcome, welcome, and thank you for being here tonight to celebrate the Bazelon Center's 2024 awardees. I want to give a big thanks to our board of trustees, especially our chair, Eve Hill, and those who traveled to DC tonight. I also want to give a big thanks to our talented staff and our very impressive and never bored interns. Of course, I want to thank our event sponsors, especially Baker Hostetler, Microsoft, Kellogg Hansen, and Reed Smith. And a special thanks to Aiken Gump, who came in today, helping us reach our sponsorship goal. Many of the foundations, individuals, and corporations who contribute to the Bazelon Center are here tonight. Thank you. Your support is critical and will continue to be. While I'm thanking supporters, I want to publicly recognize a remarkable philanthropist and donor to the Bazelon Center, who is not in the room tonight, Mackenzie Scott. Through her foundation, Yield Giving, she has awarded over $17 billion to nonprofits in just 4 years. The Bazelon Center competed in Yield Giving's first open call in 2023. And last March, we won an unprecedented, no strings attached $2 million gift. It was the maximum amount awarded to the highest scoring organizations. With the Bazelon Center's 50 years of landmark victories and the indisputable hard fights ahead for people with mental disabilities, I believe that it was Mackenzie Scott's decision, as the lawyers say, was based on the merits. Now I have the honor of introducing you to Luke Sakini, our first awardee tonight and the Bazelon Center's 2024 Emerging Advocate Award recipient. As the Director of Policy and Public Engagement at the Alliance for Rights and Recovery, Luke is working hard in New York and nationally. I'm lucky to work with Luke from time to time. From Luke, I always learn something new or gain a deeper understanding, including when it's about issues that I think I already know a lot about. Luke has that unique knack for making complex policy relatable, the consequences understood, and the alternatives possible. He does it for lawmakers, for advocates, for me, and he will do it tonight. It's my honor to welcome Luke to the stage.
All right, thank you so much. First of all, thank you for this incredible honor. I'd like to express my deepest thanks to Holly for that generous introduction and for your unwavering leadership for the Bazelon Center. I'd also like to thank the Bazelon staff for offering me this award, but more importantly, for their continued dedication to protecting the rights of people with disabilities, including those with mental health, substance use, and trauma-related challenges. Your commitment to this work continues to inspire me and countless others. I also want to extend my heartfelt congratulations to my fellow awardees. It's an honor to stand here alongside you. So advocacy is more than a passion for me. It's a responsibility. I often say I fell into this work, but my journey to advocacy began with my deep desire to support my community and those who are not afforded the opportunities to speak up. This desire, mixed with the anger felt when people are clearly treated unfairly, has been a cornerstone of my work in the mental health field. While I began working in direct services, hoping to help people who had experienced similar challenges I did when I grew up, I quickly realized that the structures and institutions which governed mental health services and funding had to be changed for more people to live the lives they wanted and deserved. It became my goal to be one of the drivers of the needed changes to get more people access to effective, voluntary mental health services with a particular focus on communities of color, which continue to face a myriad of disparities due to continued discrimination, including racism, over-policing, the disproportionate use of force and coercion, dehumanization, and a lack of adequate investment in our communities. This is why I'm so grateful to be doing this work with the champions in this room and across the nation. Working at the Alliance for Rights and Recovery, I get to bring my whole self to the job, including my past struggles and mistakes, as our team strives every day to make sure that people living with mental health, substance use, and trauma-related challenges are seen, heard, and supported. Our stories, our struggles, and our victories are at the heart of what we do at the Alliance. Thank you to my CEO, mentor, and friend, Harvey Rosenthal, as well as everyone else at our wonderful team at the Alliance. But thank you all for the opportunity, platform, and trust and continued support needed to do this work. But this work is far from over. We continue to face threats to our autonomy and the rights our movement pioneers spent decades defending. As these challenges emerge, we must stand together to fight back and protect the rights we know are sacred. Real change requires continued dedication from all of us. We must keep pushing to improve systems, challenge stigma and discrimination, and ensure that every person can access the supports and rights they deserve. Together, we can transform lives and create a world where recovery is not just possible, but fully supported by all structures in our nation. Thank you again for this wonderful honor. Let's keep the momentum going and continue this vital work. Thank you.
Luke, congratulations again, being tonight's Emerging Advocate of the Year awardee. We're all so inspired by your work, as we are by the work of all the honorees tonight. So as we continue now with the slate of speakers, I am pleased to introduce another leader at the Bazelon Center, Eve Hill. Eve is a nationally known disability rights lawyer. Eve is a partner at Brown, Goldstein, and Levy, and Eve serves as the chair of the Board of Trustees at Bazelon. Now, for those of you who have ever served on a board or who aspire to, it's important to remember board members are volunteers who lend their personal time and their professional expertise to further worthwhile missions across the country. We're all very fortunate to have such a committed leader and a committed advocate in Eve, who's served on the board for a number of years and who leads with vision and excellence in her role. Please join me now in welcoming Eve Hill to tonight's program.
Thank you so much, Amna. And thank you all for joining us tonight as we celebrate our awardees. And thank you to my fellow board members. Raise your hands for everything you do for the center and for your work to make tonight's event a success. And thank you to Holly and the rest of the Bazelon Center staff who work every day to bring justice to people with mental health conditions across the country. As many of you have heard before, because I say it every time, I joined the board of the Bazelon Center in 2017 because it is a group of the smartest and bravest advocates in the disability rights field. And I continue to believe that to this day. I'm so proud of the work of this organization. Nobody can do the work that the Bazelon Center does. And the staff of the Bazelon Center do it brilliantly. From standing up for college students whose educations are being interrupted due to their mental health conditions, to representing people with mental health disabilities who just want to engage in public service through the Peace Corps, to ensuring that people with mental health conditions can live and thrive and contribute in their communities instead of institutions, the Bazelon Center is on the leading edge of disability rights issues in the United States. And I have the honor tonight of presenting our Visionary Award. This award is reserved for individuals who not only inspire us, but challenge us to reimagine what is possible. And tonight we recognize someone whose career and life exemplify those very qualities. She is a tireless advocate, a transformative leader, and a beacon of hope for so many people. Our Visionary Award recipient is our beloved board member and friend, Joyce Bender. Joyce is a national and international leader in disability employment. Her bio makes me feel tired and inadequate. For more than 3 decades, Joyce has been a pioneer in advocating for the rights of people with disabilities. As founder and CEO of Bender Consulting Services and the Bender Leadership Academy, Joyce has made it her life's mission to create meaningful employment opportunities for individuals with disabilities, helping us break down barriers in the workforce. Through her leadership, thousands of people with disabilities have gained access to fulfilling careers and the chance to demonstrate their talents and potential. Her work has reshaped not only the professional lives of individuals, but also the culture of companies and industries, encouraging them to embrace diversity and inclusion in its truest form. But Joyce's vision doesn't stop at employment. She has championed the cause of dignity, equality, and empowerment for people with disabilities, using her platform as a national and global speaker to raise awareness and ignite change. Whether through her advocacy, her partnerships with federal agencies, and her role as a radio host on Disability Matters, Joyce has remained relentless in the pursuit of justice and inclusion. And what makes Joyce truly deserving of a Visionary Award is not just her professional achievements, but her heart and passion that she brings to everything she does. Her own personal experience as a person with epilepsy and a survivor of a life-threatening brain hemorrhage fueled her determination to fight for those who so often go unheard. She leads with empathy, courage, and a clear vision of a world where everyone, regardless of disability, has the opportunity to succeed. Perhaps most importantly, and most importantly to me personally, Joyce has been a mentor to many, many people with disabilities. Those of us who've benefited from her guidance love her passion and her smarts and her tremendous kindness. And we also benefit from her clear vision and sometimes her straight talk. Joyce has not only changed lives, she's changed systems. And it is a rare blend of personal strength and professional dedication that makes her an inspiration. I don't use that word lightly. There will be no inspiration porn here. But Joyce, your vision has illuminated pathways for many people. Your tireless efforts have made the world a more inclusive, more compassionate, and more equitable place. So on behalf of everyone here tonight, it is with great admiration and gratitude that I present you the Visionary Award. And thank you for your extraordinary contributions. Thank you so much. There she is.
Wow. I think that's the best introduction I've ever had, Dave. You know what? It is truly an honor for me to receive this award. Actually, when Holly told me, I started to cry because this means so much to me. What an honor. What an honor it is. And as a woman living with epilepsy and hard of hearing, as I started that road trying to find employment for people with disabilities, guess what group is the most marginalized? And that would be people living with mental health disabilities. It always amazes me when I go to a company and they say, "Oh, so glad you're here," because we want to start hiring people with disabilities. And I say, "Oh, but you already have. They're sitting right here at your company. They have depression, bipolar disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder," and I go through a litany of different disabilities. But of course, due to stigma, people do not want to tell their employer that they're living with a mental health disability. But you're helping change that. I want to tell you how and why I got involved with Bazelon. And her name is Jennifer Mathis. Years ago, I became friends with Jennifer, and every time something would happen in the news where they blamed people with mental health disabilities for being the bad guy, I would call her. And we would talk for, half an hour or so, which I respect Jennifer so much. And one day, in talking to her, I said, "You know what? I'd be interested in Bazelon, and that's it. The rest is history. Here I am as a board member. And then there's Holly O'Donnell, who I love so much. She is such a great leader, and oh my God, you have Eve Hill as your chair. I hope you know, she's an international mental health disability rights leader. You are so lucky to have Eve Hill. The credibility that that brings is phenomenal. So, you know, what I have to say to you tonight is you've got to help. You've got to keep making a difference. Every dollar that you donate possibly goes to saving a life. Every single dollar. I started the Bender Leadership Academy and the Mary Brocker Mental Health Initiative. Mary spent 40 years of her life, 40 years, living with clinical depression and helping young high school students with mental health disabilities gain dignity and respect and knowing how awesome they are. And 3 years ago, I lost Mary in a terrible hiking accident. She was actually the president at Bender. And I said, you know what? I'm going to keep honoring Mary. And we started the Mary Brocker Mental Health Initiative so that I could work to help high school students living with mental health disabilities realize how important they are. And you know, I've lost students with mental health disabilities to bullying, where they took their life. That's why I said every dime, every dollar you donate to Bazelon is so important. And to me, you're all champions, just that you're here. So I started a campaign called Not Ashamed. And where is Amna? She is one of the people that did a video for us. What a great disability rights leader you are, Amna. So you go to Bender, I mean, imagine someone of her fame, and she did this. You go to benderleadership.org, you get your cell phone, and you say, I'm living with a mental health disability. I support young people living with mental health disabilities, not ashamed. Or you say, I am a person that supports children with mental health disabilities, whether or not you have a mental health disability. And she was one of the first, by the way, that did this for us. She's helping change lives, possibly save lives. So in closing, not ashamed, not ashamed. How do I come up with that? Eve Hill is how I came up with that. I called Eve and I said, Eve, I have these kids living in darkness. They're in the shadows. They're ashamed. And there's the intersectionality, of course, with all groups, including the LGBTQI community. That community deals with so much mental health disabilities. And I said, what can I do, Eve? I want to get the news out. What can I do? She said, well, you know what? You have to help them get out of the shadows. And there came the idea, Not Ashamed, which is why she is in the Bender Leadership Academy website, because she came up with that. And Eve, you're helping me give kids dignity and quality of life. So what I say in closing, remember what I said, make a donation, help change a life, help save a life. I mean it, make a donation. And with that, here we go. Mary, this is for you.
Congratulations, Joyce. I know so many people are inspired by you, and for those of you that, you hear me, are hearing Joyce for the first time, and you want to stay encouraged by her, you can listen to her weekly radio show called Disability Matters. It's on Spotify. I think it's on iTunes, but you can also find it by Googling it. I can't. You were a guest. Oh, yeah, I was a guest on it. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Now, I have the honor to present our next award to Senator Markey. As many of you know, especially those of you from Massachusetts, Senator Markey has a long record of improving access and services for people with disabilities. He's unwavering in his belief that health care is a right and not a privilege. He's worked for decades to ensure that all Americans have access to affordable, quality health care, especially children. The Bazelon Center has collaborated with Senator Markey on many issues, including health care, protecting and strengthening Medicaid, expanding access to employment and community-based mental health programs, and strengthening protections for college and university students with disabilities. Senator Markey is the real deal, and here's how I know. My brother Brendan, who is here tonight, there he is, worked for Senator Markey for 7 years. Brendan was given training, responsibility, and the extra help he needed to succeed. He spoke at veterans events. He answered the phones even on the busiest days, which is a really hard job. And his favorite job was giving office tours to interns on the first day. Senator, you and your staff gave Brendan the experiences and the confidence to thrive. Brendan is an example among thousands and thousands of why you are deserving of the Bazelon Center's 2024 Congressional Champion Award.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Holly, so much. Oh, here we go. Beautiful. Put it right up here. Yeah, okay, here we go. Yeah, here we go. Beautiful. Over one more step. One more step. Beautiful. Okay, beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Holly. And what Holly didn't tell you is that I've known Holly and Brendan since they were very little. I was good friends with her father and mother. I knew them when they were living on Capitol Hill, when her father was Tip O'Neill's chief of staff. So I've known them from their origin stories, and it's just incredible to be here tonight. I've had, as Holly was saying, I had Brendan in my office up in Boston for many, many years, and it's so good to see you, Brendan. And he could do it all, and he was best friends with everybody on the staff. But he could come over with very cogent, insightful analysis, especially of where the senator might have been wrong. Okay, so Brendan was somebody willing to, be a part of this great team that we had up in Boston, and it was a great loss when he decided to move down here to D.C. But just love you, Brendan. And I loved so much having you in the office all of those years. Your contributions were invaluable to the people of Massachusetts, but especially kind of the inspiration for all the rest of the staff in terms of the work which you were doing. And to the Bazelon Center for Mental Health Law for your ongoing fight for people with mental health disabilities. I am honored to receive your 2024 Congressional Champion Award. I had my first date with my wife 39 and a half years ago, and she was a psychiatrist and Assistant Surgeon General of the United States, 2-star Admiral in the Public Health Service, and the Chief of Behavioral Medicine at the National Institutes of Health. So On the first date, I got the entire lecture on mental health and the need for us to destigmatize the issue, the need for us to be much more aggressive in ensuring that there was full inclusiveness in our country, in our society. And people with disabilities, including mental health disabilities, make up a quarter of our population. They are our families, our friends, classmates, colleagues, neighbors. They enrich our communities with their unique lived experience and perspectives. But the needs of people with disabilities are too often overlooked and pushed aside. Eli's for Rachel is here tonight, an organization that has been fighting for better mental health reform in honor of Rachel Shaw Rosenbaum. They are a part of a chorus of students fighting for the rights of students to take leave without facing high costs, burdensome paperwork, and barriers that harm their health. I have heard from many of them in Massachusetts and across the country who feel pushed aside by college and university policies. It takes remarkable bravery to speak out, but your work will motivate essential change to make the dream of education accessible to everyone. But students cannot and should not take on this fight alone. And that is why I wrote not one, but 2 letters to the Department of Education and Department of Justice, calling on them to protect students by issuing guidance to schools about how to create leaves of absence policies that do not force students out and welcome them back in when they are ready to return. And that is why, and that is why I have filed the Mental Health Rights Act to provide guidance to colleges and universities on how to better support students with mental health disabilities and substance use disorder to ensure they are complying with existing civil rights laws, and provide guidance on best practices to include every student at every single opportunity. Passing this legislation is essential because education for all can never be attained until we remove the systemic barriers that only education can make, so that it's somebody who is not excluded, but it is something that makes education not only for the few and the able, but for everyone. That's the only way in which our country should think about education. Accessibility should never be an afterthought. But when we don't build accessibility into the foundation of our laws and regulations, disabled people are left behind. Disability touches every aspect of our civil life, which is why it is imperative that we guarantee that people with disabilities can participate equally in every aspect of American society. And that is why I have also introduced legislation to fund community-based mental wellness and resilience programs to tackle a mental health crisis compounded by a climate crisis, prohibit the exclusion of people with disabilities from federal jury service because of their disabilities, update my 21st Century Communications and Video Accessibility Act, and close the technology accessibility gaps that exist within our online ecosystem, and guarantee that streaming videos are totally accessible to everyone. In the ADA in 1990, along with Senator Tom Harkin, I was in the House at the time, I passed the bill in the ADA that makes all of these devices 100% accessible to the deaf and blind community. And that's 20 million people in the United States of America. And we have to extend it now over to streaming services so that all of the people in our country who need access have it. We need an on-ramp for the 21st century. If you don't have this as a means of communication, then you can't be a full participant, and we just have to continue to pass the laws to ensure that we give that access. We have to improve the processes, policies, forms, and communication from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services and the Social Security Administration, so disabled Americans and their caregivers can more easily access benefits that they are eligible for. Expand access to treatment for substance use disorder by unfurling medication treatment for opioid use disorder from antiquated war on drugs laws, and end solitary confinement in federal prisons, jails, and detention centers. Solitary confinement is both disproportionately used on people with mental health conditions and disproportionately causes mental health conditions. We have to deal with solitary confinement as a mental health crisis in our country. But incarceration, isolation, and segregation are not treatment. Mental health conditions are just as real as heart conditions. But when we penalize people for their mental health disabilities, we are merely using strategies to hide, to stigmatize, and marginalize people. But our civil rights should never be determined by mental disabilities. From our homes to our courtrooms to our classrooms, we must not only defend people with disabilities from harm such as exclusion and discrimination and violence, but expand opportunities for full inclusion. This means we continue the fight for dignity, equality, access, and justice for every American, including Americans living with a mental disability. And we must recognize that there is no health justice, education justice, economic justice without disability justice. My father used to say, you can't beg for your rights, you have to take them. And the disability community knows that better than any. It was the disability community that held sit-ins nearly 50 years ago to push the federal government to issue regulations regarding Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act. It was the disability community that crawled up the Capitol steps in 1990 to demand that Congress pass the Americans with Disabilities Act, and a few short months later, it was signed into law. And today, I am inspired by the fight that you are now conducting to push Congress to fulfill this nation's promises of equality and justice for everyone. And I'm going to continue to work with you, to partner with you, to pass legislation, to have oversight, to have federal funding so that people with disabilities, including mental health disabilities of all ages, can live with dignity and respect within our society. And I know that with your passion, your perseverance, and your persistence, together we will make accessibility a priority and justice an expectation for every single disabled American. There will be nothing about you without you, and that is what this is all about. Thank you all so much for this incredible, incredible honor. Thank you.
Please welcome to the stage Bazelon Center's legal director, Megan Schuler.
I'm going to take it as an incredible vote of confidence instead of a hazing that they had me go right after Senator Markey. Another round of applause for the senator. That was wonderful. Good evening, everyone. I am Megan Schuler. I use she, her pronouns. And as a visual description, I'm a middle-aged woman with blonde hair wearing a black jumpsuit that several people have reassured me is stylish and does not look like a pirate. I have the privilege of presenting the next award to our pro bono law firm partner of the year. Now, before I joined the Bazelon Center, like many, I thought that this was a much larger organization than it is. I scrolled through the long list of cases and policy work on the website as I prepared for my interview, and then I looked at the staff page. It didn't add up. So in my interview, I asked them what their secret was. What was this magic sauce that enabled them to do so much high-impact work for hundreds of thousands, millions of people with mental health disabilities with so few people? Well, they weren't quick to reveal their secrets, I'll tell you that. But tonight, I'm going to let you in on a little bit of the family recipe. Our partners. We work with pro bono law firm partners on nearly every single case and every amicus brief that we do. They are our force multiplier. They vastly increase the impact, scope, and reach of our work. We truly could not do it without them. Now, tonight, I'm honored to recognize the very first pro bono law firm partner I had the privilege of working with at the Bazelon Center. And that's not just by happenstance. They were the first because when I needed advice on a Supreme Court brief, both Ira and Lewis gave me the same name, Aaron Panner at Kellogg Hansen. Now, for those who don't know Ira and Lewis, they're not easily impressed. So when they both tell me, this is the guy, and listen to what he says, it leaves a lasting impression. Now, just months later, I was working on another project, an amicus brief or a friend of the court brief, in an Olmstead case that had been brought by the Justice Department on behalf of children with complex medical needs in Florida. Our goal was to explain to the Court of Appeals that it is almost always more appropriate and far more effective for children with disabilities, even with complex medical needs, to be cared for at home than in an institution. I had been cautioned to be judicious in my requests of Kellogg Hansen because they're too good. They are too valuable of a partner, and we need to save them for our big Supreme Court cases. Did I heed that advice? No. I got greedy and I reached out to Aaron to see if they might consider working with us on this brief, and he came back with a quick yes and a rock star team of associates. And I'll tell you that after we filed that brief, one of my good friends and colleagues at DOJ, who happens to be in the room tonight, sent me a short text message. I love this brief. And it doesn't stop there. Just months later, that big Supreme Court case that I had been warned would inevitably come, the type of case that Kellogg Hansen is so skilled at taking on, came across my desk. Some of you may have heard of it, Grants Pass, arguably the most important Supreme Court case on homelessness in decades. It had been just a couple months since this last brief, but I had to try. Sure enough, Kellogg Hansen stepped up again. They worked with us to author a powerful brief that not only talked about and brought to life the harm of criminalization of homelessness and the disproportionate impact that that has on people with mental health disabilities, arresting people for sleeping outside, releasing them, only to arrest them again tomorrow, but also a brief that was uplifting the alternative community-based services and solutions that we all know are more effective and that are an actual long-term solution to the problem. Now, that brief reached people. It made an impact. I received moving personal accounts of people who had experienced these types of laws and how much that brief meant to them. It spurred a national conversation. That is the impact multiplier of Kellogg Hansen. So it is my pleasure to present the award for Law Firm Pro Bono Partner of the Year to Aaron Panner and the entire team at Kellogg Hansen, Todd, Feigl, and Frederick.
I can reassure you that I will not speak long. That was overwhelming. Thank you so much, Megan. I have to say, going off script, that I arrived kind of early to the reception, and I just felt like taking a picture of my name tag with all of the names of the folks who were on that table, because there were so many people who I know by reputation or personally who are heroes to me in terms of the extraordinary work that they have done. They have dedicated their careers, their lives to an issue of such singular importance. And so I feel like to be honored this way is almost disproportionate. It is such a pleasure and an honor to accept this award on behalf of Kellogg Hansen. Working with the Bazelon Center, I've had the opportunity, and my colleagues and I have had the opportunity to work with the center now for at least 7 or 8 years. And it's been a tremendously rewarding experience for me personally and for my many firm colleagues who've had the opportunity to work on amicus briefs with the center. We have learned so much about the issues that are of such singular importance to our entire nation. And these cases have also been extremely important to many of us and meaningful to us personally. We genuinely appreciate the opportunity to contribute to the greater understanding of how law intersects with mental health and mental illness, and we look forward to continued collaboration. I wanted to thank by name my many colleagues who have worked on projects with the Bazelon Center over the years, some of whom happily have been able to be here this evening. And I wanted to mention Rachel Anderson, Kyle Bailey, Jeff Block, Tiberius Davis, Chancellor Gallenstein, Gavin Gideon, Natalia Gillespie, Josh Haffenbrack, Mark Hirschbeck, Ashley Holman, Bethan Jones, Jonathan Liebman, Ana Maria Morales-Kimball, Caroline Scheckinger, and Alex Triger. As you see, a number of my colleagues have had an opportunity to work on these matters, and it's their commitment and their skill that have made the firm's contribution to this effort possible. But I also especially want to thank the lawyers from the Bazelon Center, who have always been generous and patient collaborators. They've shared their knowledge and expertise with us, and that includes Megan, of course, and Ira Burnham, and Louis Bossing, and Britt Vanneman, and Monica Porter-Gilbert. And I'm sure I'm leaving some out, but we could not have done any of this without your guidance. And a special thanks also to Holly O'Donnell, who has been a real friend and supporter and is just such a tremendous advocate for this center, as all of you know better than I. So we are tremendously grateful to be a part of this evening and this celebration of the Bazelon Center and its critical work. Thank you very much.
Our next award goes to an organization that you just heard a little bit about from Senator Markey, an organization with an ever-growing reach and impact. And this one is personal to me. Though I promise not to get emotional, it doesn't seem like I'm going to be successful. Eli's for Rachel were plaintiffs in the first case I ever worked on at the Bazelon Center. Our lawsuit against Yale University, my alma mater. When I was at Yale 20 years ago, I struggled significantly with my mental health. But I did not get the help or treatment I needed because I didn't want to be kicked out. I didn't want to lose everything I had worked for, and I didn't want to lose my autonomy. I'm fortunate that I made it through, but as we all know too well, many across the country are not as fortunate. Founded in 2021 to help Yale students who are struggling with their mental health. Eli's for Rachel, formed in honor of Branford freshman Rachel Shaw Rosenbaum, who, in the words of Eli's for Rachel, was always looking out for the next kid. So too is Eli's for Rachel, whose members have been supporting Yale students on individual and systemic levels for years. In 2023, as a result of their tireless advocacy, Eli's for Rachel and 2 named plaintiffs entered into a landmark settlement agreement with Yale University, requiring university-wide policy and practice changes, really truly groundbreaking reforms that I am confident will change and save students' lives. So no one has to suffer in silence or be punished for seeking treatment anymore. The Yale case was a true story of David and Goliath, and as one of the Eli's for Rachel so aptly put it, Bazelon and co-counsel helped put the rock in their sling. But EFR's advocacy far predated our involvement in that case, and it has continued well beyond one case or one campus. Over the past year, they've become leaders on campus mental health nationwide, elevating the voices and the needs of students with mental health conditions on national platforms, including the Washington Post, the New York Times, CNN. They share powerful testimonials so that students know they're not alone. Uplifting the voices of those most impacted and ensuring that students with mental health disabilities are not left in the shadows, but instead are the leaders at the table. Developing and implementing supportive policies on their campuses to level the playing field. It is my distinct honor to award this year's Emerging Advocacy Organization Award to Eli's for Rachel. Please give a warm welcome to Zach Duke and Lily Colby. Cried when we signed the settlement. Happy to be here with you. You should walk.
All right, right here. 3, 2, 1.
And can we get one with Paul jumping in? Just come on, get up here real quick. Thank you. Paul's the mascot on the board.
One more, 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we got this. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Lily Colby. First, thank you to the Bazelon Center for Mental Health Law and this award and the work that you do every day fighting for justice. And congratulations to all the award recipients tonight. It's an honor to stand beside you in this fight for justice. And a special thanks to all the individual people that made this happen. Pam, Rachel's mom, who couldn't be here today, Tina, Paul, who's right there, Paula, and members of the Eli's for Rachel board, Alicia, Rishi, Willow, April. And thank you to our legal team and the Lazarus family for supporting me personally in my journey. I understand on a deeply personal level the difficult multi-generational fight to create true inclusivity that's not just for some people, but for everyone to thrive in society. My late mother, Adele, lived with bipolar disorder.
My late father, Tim, lived with schizophrenia. When they were not given the community supports that they needed to take care of themselves, let alone me and my 3 brothers, my brothers and I were separated into foster care. When I graduated from Yale, I was one of just 2% of foster youth to earn a bachelor's degree at the time. I understand how when systems fail one person, one family, they fail whole communities. Now, I get to be a lawyer, and I organize for change in disability rights, LGBT rights, and in foster care. When Rachel Shaw Rosenbaum passed away in 2021, she wasn't the first Yale student to voice her struggles with inadequate support. Thank you, Megan, for talking about that. I know too many students who, rather than being supported for their mental health, were literally kicked out of school, were kicked out of their housing. We have unhoused Yaleys. And even, not ironically, for their mental health condition, lost their health care. As a Yale alumna, I remembered how difficult it was to get a therapist or the accommodations I needed. So when Rachel passed away, I opened my Zoom room and hosted our first community forum. And people came. Students, alumni, friends, family members, Zach, all showed up, and we talked about how harmful policies had impacted them directly or people that they knew. And then we got to work. We created a survey to see trends across decades. We raised funds for current students to get the support that they needed that they weren't getting, and we figured out what was going wrong and better ways that Yale could be doing things. So then we talked to the court of public opinion. We weren't alone. And we got some damn good attorneys to help us in the court of law. Thanks to the Bazelon Center, Maya Goodall, and the Disability Rights Connecticut, in less than 1 year from the date of filing in August 2023, we achieved the most comprehensive mental health settlement against a university in US history. We got most of what we asked for. Since the lawsuit, the data from last year shows not only has no student been put on forced medical leave, but every student who applied to get back in did so. I'd like to turn the mic to one of our most amazing board members, Zach Duguay, who knew Rachel Shaw Rosenbaum personally. Please give a welcome to Zach.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am it's interesting being in this room, seeing so many people who I know Rachel would have admired deeply. This sort of thing was everything that she was about. Rachel herself would have been so proud of the work Bazelon has done in support of Eli's for Rachel and in support of all their endeavors to fight for justice for the disadvantaged and for mental health specifically. Rachel attended Yale with the intention of one day becoming a civil rights attorney herself, following her dream of fighting for the mistreated on a battlefield where the truth matters more than the number of zeros in your organization's endowment. Vigorous outreach and advocacy in our early days won us some important victories, but there was still so much left we couldn't do just by asking. but via legal action through Bazelon, side by side with our co-plaintiffs, Hannah Neves and Alicia Abramson, we were given a voice that couldn't be easily ignored. The settlement that followed represents exactly the kind of thing that Rachel believed in, making a fairer and more compassionate system for those who come next. And although this fight isn't over, I am far from discouraged. There is no more fitting a legacy for someone like Rachel than a fight for the disadvantaged in her name. I will give it back to.
Isn't he fantastic? So today I got to speak to Rachel's mother, who stands with us in this fight. And she wants you all to know to keep fighting every day for mental health justice, and especially for young kids and college students. Fight for counselors and stand up. Tonight's recognition isn't just about us winning a lawsuit. It's about the power of centering those with lived experience in the advocacy work that you do. When people with lived experience are not only at the table, but the ones helping call the shots in the decision-making room, real change happens. Thank you to everyone in this room tonight, and to every young person who stood beside us, every family member, and every alumni. This movement, shows that when we are together, we can make real change. I appreciate you all.
Thank you, Lily and Zach. I've heard so much about you, and I'm really glad that I finally got to meet you. For the last award tonight, the Bazelon Center is proud to honor Senator Fetterman with the 2024 Congressional Champion Award. We are honoring the senator for his role in destigmatizing mental illness. Unfortunately, he's not able to attend tonight. He did send recorded remarks that I've listened to or watched, and they're great, and we will share those remarks. It just, the timing didn't work out to all the people that are here. So back to you, Amna.
Was a sign of some kind. That is my cue that this evening is coming to a close. The microphone's jumping from its own holder here. Thank you so much, Holly. I just want to say, I think I speak for all of us when I say tonight has just been incredibly touching and so impactful for all of us. Lily and Zach, I was shedding a tear as you were both speaking there. I'm sure everyone else was too. I know I, like many of you in this room now, walk away with a renewed sense of optimism, but also a renewed sense of commitment for the work ahead. We know that this community, led by Bazelon, is strong and vibrant because of all of you, because of everyone here in this room, people who give your time and your resources and your heart to millions of adults and children with mental health disabilities. But please remember, as everyone has said tonight, the work is far from over. We are not done, and we are not even done here tonight. So please continue to enjoy yourself. There's an open bar, there is delicious food throughout the room. We hope you stay and enjoy yourself. And before we do that, please join me in giving a warm thank you to the wonderful staff here at the National Press Club who've taken such good care of us this evening. Thank you so much to all of you for your hospitality. Thank you to all of you for being here tonight and for having me here. It's an honor and a pleasure, and I hope we'll see each other again soon. Have a good evening.